June 11th, 1962. Alcatraz Island, San Francisco Bay. Inside a cell block once called escape-proof, guards make their nightly rounds. Everything looks normal. 3 men are asleep in their bunks. Except they aren't. What the guards are looking at are dummies, fake heads made of soap, toilet paper, and real human hair. And by the time anyone realizes it, 3 men will have vanished from an island prison surrounded by freezing water, sharks, and some of the strongest currents in North America. To understand this escape, you first have to understand the prison itself. Alcatraz, nicknamed the Rock, sat on a 22-acre island 1.5 miles off the coast of San Francisco. It opened as a federal penitentiary in 1934, built to hold the most dangerous, most difficult inmates in the American prison system, men who had escaped from other prisons. Men considered too violent, too clever, or too high-profile to be trusted anywhere else. Al Capone served time here. So did George Machine Gun Kelly. This wasn't a place you were sent to be punished. It was a place you were sent when every other prison had already given up on you. The prison's reputation rested on one simple promise: nobody gets off this island. The water around it was cold, often below 55 degrees Fahrenheit, with currents strong enough to sweep a grown man out to sea in minutes. Between 1934 and 1962, there were 14 escape attempts involving 36 men. Officially, not one of them succeeded. That record would be tested one final time by 3 men who refused to believe the water was the end of the story. Frank Morris was the mastermind. Orphaned as a child, in and out of institutions his whole life, Morris had an IQ tested at 133, higher than most doctors and lawyers. He'd already escaped from a Louisiana prison once before. By the time he arrived at Alcatraz in 1960, convicted of bank robbery, prison officials considered him one of the most intelligent inmates they had ever processed. Then there were the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence. Bank robbers from Georgia, close as only brothers can be, both known for a string of failed prison escapes elsewhere. Reckless, but relentless. A 4th man, Alan West, joined the planning early on. He knew the maintenance areas of the prison better than almost anyone, and that knowledge would become the plan's foundation. The 4 men were housed in adjoining cells on the same cell block, and that, more than anything else, is what made the impossible possible. The plan began with a discovery. The concrete walls at the back of each cell, around the air vents, had degraded over the decades from moisture. They were soft enough to be carved away. Using spoons stolen from the dining hall, sharpened into makeshift drills, and a motor scavenged from a broken vacuum cleaner, the men began digging. Night after night, they carved through the walls of their cells, widening the vent openings just enough for a man to slip through. To hide the sound of digging, the men waited for a specific window each evening, a stretch of time during music hour, when an inmate played the accordion in the cell block, covering the scraping of metal against concrete. Behind the cells was a narrow, unguarded utility corridor. Once through the vents, the men had access to a hidden workspace at the top of the cell block, completely out of sight of the guards below. There, over several months, they built the tools of their escape. More than 50 raincoats, stolen or traded from other inmates, were stitched together using dental floss and a converted concertina to seal the seams with heat. From these raincoats, the men built 2 rafts, life vests, and the dummy heads that would fool the guards. Human hair, collected from the prison barbershop, was glued onto the dummy heads with soap and toothpaste. Painted with stolen paint to match skin tone. Placed under blankets, angled just enough to catch the beam of a guard's flashlight during the nightly count. For months, the plan came together piece by piece, hidden in plain sight, inside a prison built specifically to make this kind of thing impossible. Then, in early June 1962, they were ready. June 11th, 1962. Lights out. Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin placed their dummy heads in their bunks, slipped through the vents at the back of their cells, and climbed up into the utility corridor. Alan West, the fourth man, wasn't so lucky. His cement had hardened around his vent, and he couldn't break through in time. He would be left behind. The three men climbed through a ventilation shaft to the roof of the cell block, then down the side of the building using a makeshift drain pipe, past a barbed wire fence and to the shoreline, carrying their hand-built raft and life vests with them. Somewhere around 10 p.m., they launched their raft into San Francisco Bay, into water that could kill an unprepared swimmer in under 20 minutes, currents strong enough to defeat trained athletes. And then they disappeared. The next morning, June 12th, guards discovered the empty cells, the dummy heads still tucked under the blankets. By then, the men had a head start of at least 8 hours. The FBI was called in immediately. One of the largest manhunts in American history began. Search teams combed the bay for weeks. They found pieces of the raft, a paddle, a packet of letters wrapped in rubber to stay dry belonging to the Anglin brothers. They found a life vest floating near Angel Island, roughly 2 miles from Alcatraz, in the direction of open ocean, not the mainland. The official conclusion from the FBI was that the men most likely drowned, overwhelmed by the cold and the currents, their bodies swept out through the Golden Gate and lost to the Pacific. But the case was never definitively closed. No bodies were ever recovered. And over the following decades, reports would surface. A grave in Brazil. Family members claiming they received Christmas cards for years afterward. A photograph allegedly showing the Anglin brothers alive in Brazil in the 1970s. None of it has ever been proven. The U.S. Marshals Service still lists all three men as fugitives, wanted, presumed alive until proven otherwise, a case that technically remains open more than 60 years later. Alcatraz closed as a federal prison less than a year later, in March 1963, officially due to the high cost of running an island facility, though many believe the escape played a role in that decision. Today, the island is a museum, visited by over 1 million people every year. The original dummy heads, the ones that fooled the guards that night, are still on display, exactly where the story left them. Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin remain, to this day, the only inmates never officially found, dead or alive, after attempting to escape from Alcatraz. Whether they made it to shore or to the bottom of the bay is a mystery that has outlived the prison itself. The Rock kept its secrets, and somewhere between San Francisco Bay and the pages of history, so did they.